silence is the first thing you notice. Not the kind of silence you get in a quiet room where the hum of an air conditioner or the distant murmur of traffic still reminds you of life beyond your walls. No, this is a deeper silence. A silence so complete, so absolute, that for a moment you wonder if you've gone deaf. Then a voice, smooth, calm, artificial. Mission briefing. You will be transported to each planet in the solar system to determine whether survival is possible with the resources available on Earth. All necessary life support equipment has been provided. Mission begins now. Before you can even process what's happening, a sensation washes over you, like being pulled forward without moving. The emptiness of space is suddenly replaced by something else entirely. An atmosphere so thick it presses against you like an unseen force. The world around you glows in an eerie, hazy orange. The heat is the next thing you notice. It's not the kind of heat you'd find in a desert, or even standing too close to an open flame. This is something worse. The air itself feels angry, pressing against your suit with a weight that makes every breath, every movement, feel like a struggle. The sky above is a sickly yellow, dense with clouds that churn like a pot of boiling liquid. The silence is the first thing you notice. Not the kind of silence that exists in a quiet room, where distant sounds still hum at the edge of perception. Not even the deep silence of space, where there is no air to carry sound. This is something else entirely. It is the silence of pressure of an atmosphere so thick it smothers even the possibility of noise. A silence so absolute it feels as though the world itself is holding its breath. Then a voice, smooth, calm, artificial. Mission briefing. You will be transported to each planet in the solar system to determine whether survival is possible with the resources available on Earth. All necessary life support equipment has been provided. Mission begins now. Before you have time to react, it happens. A force grips you, not pulling you forward or backward, not pushing you up or down, but shifting you in a way that defies direction entirely. The fabric of reality bends and the void of space dissolves into something heavy. Venus. It hits like a wall. The heat is the first thing you feel. It's not like stepping into a desert. It's not even like standing in front of an open furnace. This is worse. The air presses against you like a burning ocean, thick and relentless. Your suit's cooling systems activate immediately, working at full capacity, but even through the insulation you feel it. A deep, smothering heat that creeps inward, slow but unstoppable. You glance down at your wrist display, 900 degrees Fahrenheit. The numbers are almost meaningless. This heat is so intense that lead would melt into liquid, that zinc would boil away into vapor, that steel itself would soften over time. Even Mercury, a planet closer to the Sun, isn't this hot. You take your first step, and the second thing you notice is the weight. Not from gravity. Venus's gravity is only slightly weaker than Earth's, but from the sheer force of the air itself. The atmosphere is so dense that every movement feels sluggish, like walking underwater. The pressure here is 90 times what you're used to, equivalent to standing a mile beneath Earth's ocean. Your suit compensates, reinforcing itself against the crushing force, but you feel it pressing against your body, a relentless, invisible fist squeezing inward from every direction. You instinctively inhale, but there is no air, not the kind you could breathe. The sky is thick with carbon dioxide, mixed with sulfur dioxide so potent it would burn your lungs instantly. You glance upward. The sky isn't blue. It isn't black. It is yellow, hazy and thick. The clouds above churn in slow motion, a dense, suffocating shroud of sulfuric acid. They are so thick that they trap heat in a never-ending cycle, bouncing it back to the surface again and again. Even light struggles to pass through. The sun, if you could see it, would be nothing more than a dim glow swallowed by the atmosphere. This is not a sky. This is a prison. You turn, scanning the alien landscape around you. The ground is cracked, lifeless, ancient. Dark volcanic rock stretches as far as the eye can see, broken by ridges and plains of hardened lava flows. There is no dust, no sand, no loose soil. The air is too thick for that. Nothing moves. There are no rivers, no winds, no signs of erosion. The planet's surface is shaped not by water or weather, but by fire. Venus has volcanoes, some of the largest in the solar system, but they are not like Earth's. Here, lava doesn't simply flow, it floods. Some volcanic eruptions on Venus have covered entire regions the size of continents in fresh lava, reshaping the world in massive, unstoppable waves of molten rock. And yet, despite this chaos, Venus is eerily still. There are no seasons, no changing weather, no cooling nights. The heat here is eternal. Venus never cools down, never relents, never allows anything to survive. The radio crackles to life. Mission control to Explorer. Caution, suit temperature increasing. Estimate remaining survival time in current conditions. You check your systems. The heat is creeping in. Even with Earth's best technology, there are limits. Your suit is built for extreme environments, but Venus is pushing it to the edge. If your cooling systems fail, the heat won't just be uncomfortable. It will seep through every layer of insulation, cooking you alive inside your own protective gear. Even if you somehow resisted the temperature, the pressure itself would crush you instantly. Venus does not allow survival. You take another step forward. Your boots crunch against the ground, kicking up tiny flecks of rock that hover in the thick air before settling back down. Ahead, the terrain rises into a jagged ridge of ancient mountains. You hesitate. Venus has mountains, but they are not like Earth's. The gravity here is weaker, allowing taller peaks to form without collapsing under their own weight. Some of these mountains rise over 7 miles high, taller than Everest, but no one will ever stand on their peaks. There is no air to breathe, no cooling winds, no moment of triumph. Only heat, only pressure, only death. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Assess long-term survival feasibility. You already know the answer. Venus is not a world that welcomes visitors. Nothing survives here. The longest-lasting probe sent to Venus, the Soviet Venera 13, lasted only 127 minutes before it was destroyed. The strongest metals corrode in hours. Electronics fail, cameras melt. Even a structure built from solid titanium or tungsten would weaken and collapse over time. There is only one way to survive here. Not on the surface, but above it. High in the upper atmosphere, 50 kilometers above the ground, the conditions are much more forgiving. There, temperatures are lower, air pressure is manageable, and sunlight is still strong enough for energy production. If humanity ever colonizes Venus, it will not be on the ground. It will be in the clouds. You picture it. Floating cities suspended by massive balloons drifting over the inferno below. The idea sounds like something from science fiction, and yet it might be the only way humans could ever live here. But down here, on the surface, there is no escape. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You take one last look at the dead, blistered landscape, the weight of the sky, the heat that never stops. Then the pull returns. Venus fades, and suddenly you are somewhere new. A world of fire and ice. A world called Mercury. The air around you shimmers with heat. Even though your visor is darkened to its limit, you can still feel the intensity of the light, scattered and refracted by the dense, choking atmosphere. The ground itself seems to glow, radiating stored heat back upward. You check your suit's exterior readings. Every piece of metal is steadily rising in temperature. Even if the cooling system holds out for a while longer, the reality is unavoidable. Nothing survives here for long. And yet, Venus was not always like this. There was a time, long before humans existed, when Venus may have been Earth's twin in more than name. Scientists believe that billions of years ago, before the runaway greenhouse effect began, Venus might have had oceans. The thought seems absurd now. Standing here, surrounded by this endless, searing wasteland, the idea of water existing on this planet feels like a cruel joke. But there is evidence. Studies of Venus's atmosphere suggest that long ago, liquid water may have covered parts of the planet's surface. The sun was cooler back then, and Venus may have had a stable climate, possibly even habitable conditions. But something changed. The oceans began to evaporate, more water vapor entered the atmosphere, trapping more heat, which caused even more evaporation. A chain reaction spiraling out of control. Eventually, the water was lost to space. The atmosphere thickened, and Venus became the world it is today. A hellish prison of heat and poison. You step forward carefully, your boots pressing against cracked volcanic rock. Venus is not dead, not completely. The surface may appear frozen in time, but deep below, the planet is still active. There are no tectonic plates here, no shifting continents like on Earth. Instead, Venus's crust is a single unbroken shell, trapping heat inside until it escapes in planet-wide volcanic events. Some scientists believe that every few 100 million years, Venus undergoes a global resurfacing event, where nearly every volcano erupts at once, covering the planet in lava, erasing craters and starting the cycle over again. You look toward the horizon, where a towering volcanic peak rises through the haze. That is Mount Mons, the tallest volcano on Venus, standing over 26,000 feet high, almost as tall as Mount Everest, and it may not be extinct. Recent studies suggest that Venus may still have active volcanoes, hidden beneath the thick clouds, occasionally releasing bursts of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. You glance at your wrist display again. Your suit's cooling system is running at maximum capacity. The numbers are flashing red. Time is running out. A few more minutes, and the heat will start creeping through. A few more after that, and your suit will begin to fail. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Final assessment required. Is human survival possible? You already know the answer. Number. Not here. Not on the surface. Venus does not allow life. It destroys it. If humans ever came here in person, they would need mobile research stations, designed to withstand heat, acid, and crushing pressure, possibly even burrowing underground to escape the relentless atmosphere. But in reality, the only hope for long-term survival lies far above. In the clouds, where the pressure is lower, floating cities could exist. It would be the opposite of Earth. On Earth, we build up from the ground. On Venus, we would have to build down from the sky. You picture it, a suspended colony, drifting above the inferno, shielded from the worst of Venus's wrath. There, oxygen-filled habitats could float naturally in the thick atmosphere, protected from radiation, drawing energy from the sun and harvesting carbon dioxide to produce fuel. A fragile existence, but possible. But here, on the surface, even the strongest structures would eventually fail. The longest-lasting probes barely survived for an hour before being crushed, melted, and erased. A human, even with the best technology Earth has to offer, would last minutes. There is no survival here, only endurance, for as long as your technology can hold out. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for extraction. You take one last look at the tortured landscape. This place is not just deadly, it is final. Venus is a graveyard of what once was, a world that could have been Earth, but became something else entirely. The suffocating clouds swirl endlessly overhead, trapping the planet in its unbreakable cycle. Heat that never fades, pressure that never lifts. Venus is not waiting for life. It is waiting to destroy it. And then the pull begins. The weight vanishes. The heat fades. And suddenly, you are somewhere new. A world where fire meets ice. Where shadows are colder than space itself. A world of deadly contrast. A world called Mercury. The transition is disorienting. One moment, you're standing on Venus, feeling the crushing weight of the atmosphere bearing down on you, the heat threatening to melt everything around you. Then, everything stops. The overwhelming pressure, the suffocating air, the fire in every direction, all of it vanishes. For the briefest moment, you feel nothing at all. Then your feet touch solid ground, and everything changes. The silence here is different. Not thick, not suffocating, just empty. You take a step forward, and your boots press into fine, powdery dust, untouched for eons. The surface is a sea of grey and black rock, stretching out to the horizon, broken only by deep craters and jagged cliffs. Above you, the sky is a pitch-black void, even though the sun blazes overhead, far larger and brighter than it ever appeared from Earth. There is no atmosphere to scatter the light, no blue sky, no air to breathe, nothing but the raw, unfiltered glare of the closest star in the solar system. This is Mercury, a world of unrelenting extremes. Your visor automatically darkens, shielding your eyes from the unbearable glare, but even then, the brightness is overwhelming. The ground itself is glowing with heat, radiating the energy of a sun that hangs impossibly close. You glance at your wrist display. The temperature reads 800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead, zinc, even some types of steel. The rocks beneath your feet have been scorched by solar radiation for billions of years, blasted by relentless waves of heat with no protection. Yet, something feels off. You take another step, moving carefully across the loose, sun-baked dust. Then you turn, and everything changes. One side of your body burns, the other feels frozen. You glance at your wrist display again, and your mind struggles to process the numbers flashing across the screen. The temperature has dropped instantly, plummeting to negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit. You have stepped into the shadow. On Mercury, there is no atmosphere to trap or distribute heat. On the sunlit side, the temperature is hot enough to liquefy metal, but just a few steps into the darkness and you are in one of the coldest places in the solar system. Your visor adjusts again, shifting from the blinding sunlight to near darkness. The contrast is dizzying. Ahead of you, a deep crater stretches into the shadows, so dark, so untouched, that it feels like staring into the mouth of an abyss. This is what makes Mercury unique. Unlike Venus, which is a suffocating furnace trapped in an endless greenhouse effect, Mercury is a planet of balance and contrast. One step in the light, you burn. One step in the dark, you freeze. The radio crackles to life. Mission control to Explorer. Surface analysis in progress. No atmosphere detected. Gravity, 38% of Earth's. Magnetic field present but weak. You nod slightly. The lower gravity is noticeable. Moving is easier, more effortless, like walking on the moon. Every step feels lighter, every movement smoother, as if the planet itself resists pulling you down. Yet, despite the low gravity, Mercury is not a safe place to be. You glance upward at the black sky, and for the first time you feel exposed. There is no air here to shield you from radiation. The sun's unfiltered rays pour down, slamming into the surface, sending waves of deadly particles through the ground and through your suit. On Earth, our atmosphere protects us. Even Mars has a thin layer of air to offer some shielding. But here, there is nothing. Every moment you spend on Mercury, your body is bombarded by solar radiation, by cosmic rays from deep space, by high-energy particles that would tear through human DNA given enough exposure. You glance at your wrist display again. Your suit is holding, but even the best shielding has limits. You won't last long here. And then, you remember something else. Mercury is shrinking. The surface you're standing on is not just ancient, it's changing, even now. Unlike most rocky planets, which have long since stabilized, Mercury is still contracting. Its core is cooling, causing the crust to crumple and collapse in slow motion. Massive cliffs, some stretching for hundreds of miles, are scars left behind from this process. This is a planet that is literally crushing itself, shrinking inch by inch, century by century. You take a slow step forward, nearing the edge of the crater. Your visor adjusts again, revealing the deep shadows below. At the bottom, locked in eternal night, lies something that should not exist this close to the sun. Ice. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer, confirming detection of water ice deposits. It doesn't make sense at first. You are standing on a planet where the dayside is hot enough to melt lead, and yet, here in the shadows, water has survived. For billions of years, these craters, shielded from sunlight by Mercury's lack of tilt, have hidden reservoirs of frozen water, untouched since the dawn of the solar system. If there was ever a chance for survival, it would start here. You crouch down, running a gloved hand over the icy terrain. It's solid as rock, locked in deep freeze beneath layers of dust. But if humans ever came here, if they ever built an outpost on Mercury, this ice could be the key. The ice could be melted, purified, turned into drinking water. It could be split into hydrogen for rocket fuel and oxygen for breathing. But could humans actually live here? The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Assess long-term survival feasibility. You hesitate. There is no simple answer. Mercury has no air, no weather, no protection from radiation, but it also has water, a magnetic field, and deep craters that offer natural shelter. If a base was built underground, shielded beneath layers of rock, it might just be possible. A network of tunnels connected beneath the surface, harnessing solar energy while avoiding the planet's extreme temperature shifts. But it would never be easy. You glance toward the horizon. Ahead, the jagged cliffs rise like the bones of a dying world, scarred by time, reshaped by collapse. The ice in the shadows whispers of possibility, but the surface tells another story. A world constantly at war with itself, caught between fire and ice. Could a human survive here? Maybe, but would they want to? The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You exhale, glancing once more at the blazing, sunlit wasteland behind you and the frozen abyss before you. Then the pull begins again. The heat fades, the cold fades, the black sky of Mercury melts away, and when your vision clears, you are standing in red dust. The sky is no longer black. It is a soft, rusty orange. Mars is waiting. The moment you arrive, everything feels lighter. You take a slow, cautious step forward. Your body moves differently here. There's gravity, but not much. Only 38% of Earth's pull. Each step is almost effortless, as if you're walking on the edge of a dream. The ground beneath your boots is soft, powdery, dry. It clings to you, coating your suit in a fine layer of rust-colored dust. And when you look up, the sky is not blue. It is a hazy, burnt orange, stretching endlessly over a barren, alien landscape. This is Mars, the first place in your journey where it feels like humans could one day belong. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Surface conditions confirmed. Oxygen level 0.13%. Temperature negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind speed 20 miles per hour. The numbers barely register, because right now you are looking at a world that was once alive. Or at least, it could have been. You take another step, leaving a deep print in the dust. Unlike the moon, where footprints remain untouched forever, Mars has wind. Not strong, not dangerous, but enough to stir the dust, to reshape the surface over time. And that wind is moving now. A faint gust sweeps across the landscape, kicking up a thin veil of red particles that swirl lazily before settling once more. This dust is everywhere. It covers the entire planet, fine as flour, dry as ash, laced with toxic perchlorates that could poison a human over time. But it is not just dust that makes this world unique. You turn your gaze toward the horizon, and there, stretching beyond what the eye can comprehend, is something colossal. A canyon, not just any canyon. The largest in the solar system, Valles Marineris. Your breath catches. It is not a canyon. It is a scar. A deep wound stretching across 2,500 miles of Martian surface, longer than the United States is wide. Its walls plunge 10 times deeper than the Grand Canyon, disappearing into shadows so dark they look bottomless. You take a slow step forward, standing at the edge. Down below, the canyon floor is hidden beneath an eternal dusk, shielded from the sun's weak light. No one knows how this place formed. Some believe it was torn open as the planet's crust shifted, cracking apart in slow agony over millions of years. Others think it was shaped by ancient floods, by water that once rushed through these valleys in a time before Mars became a desert. But whatever the truth, one fact remains: this is a planet of ghosts, a world where something once existed, but no longer does. And yet, there is still hope. You turn away from the canyon toward the opposite horizon, and there, rising above the plains, standing alone against the sky, is a mountain unlike anything you have ever seen, Olympus Mons. A volcano so massive it defies logic. 3 times taller than Mount Everest, its base is so wide that if you stood at one edge, the opposite side would be beyond the horizon. And it is not jagged like Earth's volcanoes. It rises smoothly, almost lazily, sloping upward in a way that tricks the eye. If you were standing at its base, you might not even realize you were climbing until days later, when you reached the peak and saw the entire planet stretched out beneath you. But Olympus Mons is more than just a mountain. It is a relic. A whisper from a time when Mars was not dead, because if there were volcanoes here, there was heat. And if there was heat, there could have been water. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm presence of subsurface ice deposits. You kneel, pressing your gloved hand against the cold Martian soil. Deep beneath this ground, there is water. Locked away in frozen reservoirs, buried beneath the dust, hidden in glaciers that have not melted in millions of years. And where there is water, there could be life. Not plants, not animals, but something small, something ancient, something waiting. For decades, scientists have wondered, did life ever exist here? Does it still? Because billions of years ago, this planet was not a wasteland. It had rivers, lakes, maybe even an ocean. The proof is everywhere. Dry riverbeds, eroded cliffs, minerals that only form in the presence of water. But then something changed. Mars's magnetic field faded. Its atmosphere began to leak into space. Without that protection, solar radiation tore away at the planet, stripping it bare, leaving it dry, leaving it cold. And now, you stand in the aftermath, in a place where rain once fell but never will again, where water once flowed but is now trapped in ice, where life may have existed but no longer does. Or maybe, just maybe, it still lingers. Deep underground, where radiation cannot reach, in hidden lakes, locked beneath layers of permafrost, or in tiny pockets of moisture, clinging to survival in a world that forgot them long ago. You exhale slowly, because here, for the first time in this journey, survival is not impossible. Difficult, yes. Brutal, absolutely. But Mars is not trying to kill you the way Venus was. Mars is not uninhabitable the way Mercury is. Mars is a challenge, a world that dares you to find a way to live. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Assess long-term habitability potential. You stare toward Olympus Mons once more, at the frozen soil beneath your boots, at the canyon that stretches into infinity. And then, for the first time, you do not feel like an intruder. You feel like a pioneer, because Mars is not just a place to visit. It is a place where humans could stay. You picture it, a base sealed against the radiation, tunnels burrowed deep beneath the surface, hydroponic farms growing food under artificial light, melting the ice, filtering the air, building something permanent. A world where humans are no longer explorers, but settlers. A world where one day someone might stand outside, without a suit. Not yet, not soon, but someday. You glance toward the sky, where the pale disk of the sun hangs smaller than it does on Earth. A new dawn, a new world, and a future that, for the first time, feels possible. You take another slow step forward, kicking up a small puff of red dust that lingers in the thin air before settling back down. For the first time on this journey, you realize you aren't in a hurry to leave. Mars is harsh, unforgiving, but it is not impossible. You turn your gaze back toward the horizon, taking in the sheer vastness of this place. Unlike Venus, which felt like a prison, or Mercury, which felt abandoned, Mars feels waiting. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Assess feasibility of long-term human habitation. You already know the answer. This is the only planet so far where survival is not just a theory, but a challenge that could be met. But how? You glance at your wrist display. The temperature has dropped further. The sun is setting, and with it the warmth of the day is vanishing fast. You step into the shadow of a nearby rock formation, and instantly the difference is staggering. Negative 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and it will only get colder. At night, Mars can plummet to negative 200 degrees, colder than the most extreme places on Earth. Shelter is not optional here. It is survival. Any human settlement would have to be buried, hidden, shielded from both the cold and the radiation that constantly bombards the surface. You picture it. Pressurized habitats dug beneath the regolith, insulated tunnels carved into the sides of cliffs, entire colonies hidden in the craters where natural walls offer protection. Underground, the temperature would be stable. The walls would shield against radiation. The ice buried below could provide water. The first humans to settle here would not build skyscrapers reaching toward the sky. They would build downward, into the planet itself. You imagine them. Scientists, engineers, pioneers, stepping out into the Martian dust, standing beneath a sky that is not truly theirs, yet feels like it could be. But survival here would not just be about shelter, it would be about air. You glance at your wrist display again. 0.13% oxygen. Not enough. Not even close. Every breath would have to be manufactured, extracted, controlled. Mars's atmosphere is almost entirely carbon dioxide, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. With the right technology, CO2 can be split into oxygen. If humans could harness the power of electrolysis, powered by solar energy, they could generate breathable air from the very planet itself. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be possible. Then there's the dust. It is not just an annoyance. It is a problem. On Earth, dust is an inconvenience, on Mars it is a threat. It gets into everything. Machines, airlocks, lungs. It is electrostatically charged, clinging to surfaces like a second skin. It contains perchlorates, dangerous compounds that, if inhaled over time, could slowly poison a human body. Every habitat, every airlock, every system would have to be sealed against the dust, filtered, cleaned. If humans are to survive here, they must control the dust, or the dust will control them. You step forward again, your boots crunching against the ground. Ahead, the land stretches toward the distance, toward the frozen caps of the poles, where sheets of dry ice glistened beneath the pale sunlight. And there, deep below those ice caps, lies another secret. Liquid water, not much. Not like Earth's vast oceans, but enough. Enough to melt. Enough to drink. Enough to sustain life. And that is where the real question lies. Does life already exist here? You turn, looking once more at Valles Marineris, at Olympus Mons, at the dry riverbeds that snake across the landscape. Mars was once warm, once wet, once, perhaps, alive. If there is still life here, it would not be on the surface. It would be hidden, deep beneath the ground where radiation cannot reach, in ancient underground lakes, trapped for millions of years, in tiny pockets of moisture, clinging to the last vestiges of a world that once flourished. If there is life on Mars, it is waiting in the dark, and one day humans may find it. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Assess long-term viability for colonization. You exhale slowly. Long-term? Yes. Mars is not a world made for humans, but it is a world that humans could adapt to. With shelter, with water, with the ability to produce oxygen and food, this planet could sustain life. Not comfortably, not easily, but survival here is not a fantasy. It is a goal. You picture it again. A Martian colony, not in the distant future, but in your lifetime. A growing city, shielded beneath rock and soil. A place where humans walk in enclosed domes, farming in artificial greenhouses, reclaiming water from frozen reservoirs. A place where Mars is no longer just a dream, but a home. Not today, not soon, but someday. You take a final look at the red planet, at the land stretching endlessly in every direction. A world of silence and potential. A world where humans will not just visit, but stay. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You hesitate, because for the first time you do not want to leave. Then the pull begins. The dust fades, the sky darkens, the gravity vanishes. And suddenly, you are falling. There is no ground beneath you, only clouds, only wind. And ahead, a world so massive it could swallow everything you've seen so far. Jupiter. The moment you arrive, you are falling. Not in a controlled descent, not like a skydive where air resistance cushions your drop. This is free fall. You are plummeting toward the largest planet in the solar system. Jupiter. The gas giant that could swallow Earth 1,300 times over. And below you, there is no ground. only storm-racked skies stretching down into an endless abyss. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Atmospheric entry detected, gravity increasing. You don't need the warning. You can feel it. Jupiter's gravity is relentless, more than twice as strong as Earth's, pulling you downward at speeds beyond comprehension. The wind roars past you, howling through an atmosphere thick with hydrogen and helium. Cloud bands swirl in colossal streaks, massive formations of ammonia and water vapor that stretch across the planet like living, breathing things. Each one is larger than Earth itself. You are plunging into a world of chaos, a world where storms do not end. A world where lightning does not flash, it explodes. Above you, the sky is brilliant, almost serene. Below, it is a nightmare. You twist in midair trying to orient yourself, and that's when you see it. A storm so massive that it could swallow our entire world. The Great Red Spot. A hurricane larger than Earth, its swirling vortex of clouds has been raging for at least 300 years. There is no land to slow it down, no oceans to break its fury. It has never stopped. It will never stop. You stare in awe, watching the monstrous storm twist and churn, stretching out for thousands of miles, its edges blending into the rest of Jupiter's violent, ever-shifting weather. And then, a flash. Bright, blinding. For an instant, the entire sky erupts in white-blue light. Jupiter's lightning storms are unlike anything on Earth. A single bolt here can be 10 times stronger than anything in Earth's worst thunderstorms. You check your visor display. More lightning detected. It streaks across the clouds, illuminating Jupiter's atmosphere in terrifying flashes of energy. You are falling deeper. The pressure is increasing. The air feels different now, thicker, heavier. You glance at your wrist display. The numbers are rising. Temperature 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Pressure 10 times Earth's atmosphere. You are descending into Jupiter's second layer of clouds, dense, churning masses of water and ammonia, stacked upon each other like an ocean of storms. But this ocean has no bottom. There is no surface, no place to land, no escape. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Atmospheric composition, 89% hydrogen, 10% helium. No breathable oxygen detected. Not that it matters. Even if there was oxygen, there is nothing to stand on. You reach out your hand. The air is thicker now. Your fingers meet resistance. This is not like falling through Earth's sky. This is something different. The air is becoming a liquid. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm transition into supercritical fluid phase. You barely hear it, because everything around you is changing. The deeper you go, the more the gas compresses, until suddenly it stops behaving like gas at all. You are no longer falling through the air. You are falling through something else. Something in between. A supercritical fluid. It's not quite a gas, not quite a liquid. It moves like air, but it pushes back against you. You are sinking, not dropping, not plummeting, sinking, like you have fallen into an invisible ocean, and there is no way out. The pressure climbs higher. Your suit is holding, for now. But you know the truth. Nothing has ever survived this deep. No probe has ever made it past this point. Every spacecraft that has tried has been crushed, melted or lost. And below this, the pressure only gets worse, until eventually the hydrogen itself becomes metal. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Caution. Extreme pressure levels detected. Suit integrity at 72%. It's failing. Jupiter is too strong. If you fall any deeper, you will be lost. But even now, you can't help but wonder, what lies even further below? Some scientists believe Jupiter has a molten core, buried beneath layers of metallic hydrogen, swirling deep in the heart of this impossible world. Others think it has no core at all, just an endless abyss of crushing, burning gas stretching on forever. The truth is, no one knows, and you never will. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Survival time decreasing rapidly. You stare into the darkness below, into the depths that no one has ever seen. A world of storms, a world of crushing pressure, a world so massive, so powerful it bends the very fabric of space around it. You take one final breath. It is time to leave. But not yet. Not until you have seen everything. Not until you have gone just a little farther. The pressure keeps rising. Your suit's internal display flashes warnings. Numbers turning red. Pressure. 100 times Earth's atmosphere. Temperature. 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. The crushing weight of Jupiter's atmosphere is becoming too much. The hydrogen around you is so densely packed that it no longer behaves like air. It flows thick, slow, alien. You are no longer in free fall. You are sinking deeper into a planet with no surface, and there is no stopping it. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Suit integrity at 52%. Further descent not recommended. You knew this moment would come. You have gone farther than any probe in human history. No spacecraft has survived beyond this depth, because beyond this point, Jupiter stops being just a gas giant. It becomes something else entirely. You check your surroundings. There is no more light. The colourful clouds, the great red spot, the violent lightning storms, all of them are far above you now. Here, there is only darkness, because below this layer, sunlight cannot reach. The atmosphere is so dense that light gets swallowed before it can travel any farther. And then, something shifts. The air thickens even more. You glance at your suit readings, trying to process what is happening. Your visor display updates, metallic hydrogen detected. Your breath catches. You have reached one of the strangest places in the universe. A place that should not exist, yet does. Here the pressure is so intense that hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, has been forced into an entirely new state. No longer a gas, no longer a liquid, but something in between. A metal, a substance that scientists believe flows like a liquid, but conducts electricity like a solid. This is the layer that powers Jupiter's massive magnetic field, one of the strongest in the solar system. A sea of liquid metal, swirling beneath the clouds, shaping the very nature of this giant world. You reach out, running your gloved fingers through the substance around you. It doesn't feel like air anymore. It feels like you are suspended inside a living, moving ocean of metal. And beneath you? No one knows for sure, A core? Some scientists believe there is a solid center, a dense, rocky mass buried beneath miles of metallic hydrogen. Others believe that there is no core at all, just an endless compression of gas, growing hotter and denser without ever truly solidifying. The only certainty is this: if you go any deeper, you will not come back. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Suit integrity at 29%. Extraction required immediately. You hesitate because you are standing on the edge of the unknown. You have seen what no human has ever seen. The heart of Jupiter. A place where gas becomes metal, where storms last for centuries, where lightning splits the sky with unimaginable force. A world that does not welcome visitors. And yet, you feel something strange. Not fear, not relief, but respect. Because Jupiter is not a planet in the way that Earth is a planet. It is a god among worlds. A colossus of gravity and storms bending the very laws of physics to its will. A place so massive, so powerful that even light itself struggles to escape its pull. You take one last look into the darkness below. If you continue downward, you will never be seen again. The radio crackles one final time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for immediate extraction. You nod, and then, just as the pressure becomes unbearable, the pull begins. The crushing weight vanishes. The thick metallic hydrogen melts away. The darkness lifts, and suddenly you are surrounded by fire. Your boots slam onto solid ground. After so much falling, the impact feels unnatural. The air is thin, but toxic. And beneath your feet, the surface is cracked, scorched, volcanic. And ahead of you, rivers of lava stretch into the distance. This is not Jupiter anymore. This is a moon, a place that should not exist, and yet it does. A world of fire and destruction, a world called Io. The moment your feet touch the ground, everything is wrong. After so much time drifting through gas giants, standing on solid ground should feel like a relief. But this is not relief. This is a nightmare. The first thing you notice is the heat. It rises from the ground in waves, twisting the air, distorting the horizon. Your suit's temperature sensors flare red. The ground beneath your feet is nearly 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The second thing you notice is the smell. Even through your helmet's filtration system, the stench of sulfur is overwhelming. The air is thick with it, a choking blend of rotten eggs, burning chemicals, and something acidic that makes your throat tighten. And then the sky explodes. A fountain of fire erupts into the air, miles high, spitting molten rock and superheated gas in all directions. Your visor's filters dim instantly, shielding your eyes from the glare. But the sheer scale of the eruption is impossible to ignore. You barely have time to process it before. Another one, and then another. The ground trembles beneath you as volcanoes erupt in every direction. This is Io, the most volcanically active world in the solar system. A hellscape of lava and poison. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer, surface conditions confirmed. Gravity 18% of Earth's, no breathable atmosphere, extreme geological instability detected. You take a slow, cautious step forward. Your boots press into a brittle crust of sulfur and ash, crunching like fragile glass. Everywhere you look, the ground is cracked, scorched, covered in strange colours, yellow, orange, deep red, painted by layers of sulfur compounds ejected from the planet's endless eruptions. And the lava never stops. Unlike Earth, where volcanoes erupt sporadically over centuries, Io's surface is in a constant state of violent change. This world is being torn apart from the inside. And the reason? Jupiter. Io is trapped in a gravitational war between Jupiter and its neighbouring moons, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. The immense pull of Jupiter's gravity stretches and compresses Io's interior, generating frictional heat so extreme that the entire moon is a molten nightmare. You glance upward at the sky, and there it is, Jupiter. Hanging impossibly large above the horizon, a swirling, titanic presence dominating the heavens. From here it fills a quarter of the sky, a massive colossus of cloud bands and storms, its gravity an invisible force pulling at every atom of Io's surface. And you feel small. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Extreme radiation levels detected. Recommend immediate extraction. You check your suit's shielding. It is already failing, because Jupiter is not just a giant. It is a radiation monster. Io orbits inside Jupiter's deadly magnetosphere, a magnetic field 20,000 times stronger than Earth's. This means that every moment you stand here, you are being bombarded by radiation so intense that an unprotected human would receive a lethal dose in just a few hours. You glance at your visor display. Your suit's shielding is holding, but not for long. You have minutes, and that's not even your biggest problem. Because Io's surface, it is unstable. You take another step and feel the ground shift beneath you. Not from an earthquake, from something worse. You turn just in time to see it. A massive fissure ripping open in the ground, spraying molten lava high into the air. The heat is unbearable. Your suit is designed for extreme environments, but nothing is designed for Io. You stumble backward as the river of fire expands, creeping toward you, its surface bubbling, twisting, reaching like a living thing. There is nowhere to run. Everywhere you look, the landscape is changing. Volcanoes erupt, spewing plumes of sulfur and basalt hundreds of miles high. Lava lakes churn, their surfaces cracking and reshaping in real time. There is no safe place, no stability, because this world is not just active, it is alive. A tortured, molten husk trapped in an endless cycle of destruction and rebirth. And yet, there is beauty here. You glance into the distance where a geyser of molten sulfur rises against the sky, glowing in shades of blue and green, painting the atmosphere with colours unseen anywhere else in the solar system. You check your wrist display. It is not just heat that makes Io dangerous. The atmosphere is thin, almost non-existent. Mostly sulfur dioxide, unbreathable, suffocating. But the lack of air also means something else. There is no protection from meteors. On Earth, objects burn up in the atmosphere before hitting the surface. Here, they slam into the ground at full speed, leaving fresh craters on an already tortured landscape. You have never been on a world so unstable. This is not a place for life. Not for humans. Not for anything. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Suit shielding at 37%. Recommend immediate departure. You take a final look around. At the endless seas of lava. at the cracked, unstable terrain reshaped with every passing moment, at Jupiter, looming above like a watchful god, pulling this moon apart, crushing it with forces beyond comprehension. And you know the truth. This world is doomed. It will never be stable. It will never be safe. It will never stop burning. Io is not a place to visit. It is a place to escape. You exhale slowly, and just as another volcano erupts behind you, the pull begins, the heat vanishes, the ground disappears, the burning sky melts into darkness, and when your vision clears, you are somewhere colder, much colder. Beneath your boots, the ground is not lava, it is ice, and stretching beyond the horizon, as far as the eye can see, a frozen ocean. This is Europa, and below the ice, there may be something waiting for you. The transition from Io to Europa is so extreme that, for a moment, you don't know how to process it. You brace yourself for another inferno, but instead, you are met with silence and cold, a deep, endless, bone-chilling cold. Your boots press into something solid, smooth and frozen. Beneath you, the ground is not rock, not lava. It is ice. You take a slow step forward. The surface beneath your feet cracks slightly but does not break. You glance around and immediately you realize something is different about this world. It is quiet. After the chaos of Io, the roaring volcanoes, the toxic air, the unstable ground, Europa feels like a completely different universe. There is no fire here, only a vast, frozen wasteland. And yet, beneath this silence, something is waiting. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Surface conditions confirmed. Gravity, 13% of Earth's. Average temperature, negative 260 degrees Fahrenheit. No breathable atmosphere detected. You already knew that. Because Europa is not meant for humans. It is a world covered in ice. A frozen shell that stretches for miles, broken only by long, jagged cracks that run across the surface like scars. And the most unsettling part? You can hear it shifting. You stop moving, listening closely. Beneath your boots, the ice groans. A deep, slow, creaking sound, as if something beneath the surface is moving. And in a way, it is. Because Europa is alive. Not in the way Io was with its violent eruptions and relentless destruction. Europa's activity is hidden, locked away beneath the ice. You kneel, pressing your gloved hand against the surface, and you know what lies below. An ocean. A massive global ocean, buried beneath miles of frozen crust. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm presence of subsurface liquid water. You stand slowly, looking across the endless horizon of ice. If there is water beneath your feet, then there is something else. A possibility, because where there is water, there may be life. You exhale, watching as a thin layer of frost forms on your visor, the moisture from your breath freezing instantly. But Europa is not welcoming. Even though it is quieter, calmer, safer than Io, this world has dangers of its own. The first is the cold. At negative 260 degrees Fahrenheit, this is one of the coldest places you have ever set foot on. Nothing survives here without protection. Any exposed skin would freeze solid within seconds. Your suit's heating system is holding, for now. But even with the best technology, your survival here would be limited. And then there's the second danger. Radiation. You glance at your wrist display, warning, radiation levels rising. Because even though Europa is beautiful, serene, otherworldly, it is still trapped in Jupiter's grasp. And Jupiter is merciless. Like Io, Europa is constantly bombarded by lethal levels of radiation. Every second you stand here, you are absorbing radiation doses far beyond what the human body can withstand. You check your suit's shielding. It is already starting to weaken. If you stayed here too long, you wouldn't freeze to death. You would die of radiation poisoning first. But despite all this, Europa is special, because this is the first place in your journey where life beyond Earth might actually exist. You kneel again, pressing your hand firmly against the ice. Beneath this frozen world, the ocean is not just water. It is moving, circulating, kept warm by hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, heated by the same tidal forces that keep Io in volcanic agony. On Earth, deep in our own oceans, life thrives around hydrothermal vents, surviving without sunlight, feeding off minerals and chemical energy. If it can happen there, why not here? You glance upward. The sky is black. No atmosphere to scatter light, no clouds to soften the void. And yet, Jupiter dominates the sky. Even larger than it looked from Io, the gas giant looms like a silent god, its storms twisting in slow motion, its great red spot watching. It is a reminder. Europa is not free. It is a prisoner to a world so massive it bends the rules of physics. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Begin assessment of long-term habitability. You stand, taking another slow step forward. Because unlike Io, unlike Venus, unlike Mercury, this is the first world where humans might actually have a future. Not on the surface, but below it. You picture it, a human colony, not built on the ice but beneath it. Submarines descending through boreholes in the crust, exploring the dark, alien ocean beneath. Sealed habitats floating in the currents, protected from radiation by the thick ice above. A city beneath the ice. A world where humans don't walk on land, but swim in the abyss. It wouldn't be easy. Europa is dangerous, but for the first time, it is not impossible. And that changes everything. You glance across the frozen landscape, at the shifting ice, at the scars left by unseen forces below. And you wonder, if there is life beneath the surface, would it know you are here? Would it hear your footsteps above? Would it be watching, just as you are watching now? The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Additional data required. You nod. Because you are not done here yet. There is more to uncover, more to understand. And for the first time, you are not just exploring. You are searching. You exhale slowly, watching as frost forms on your visor, crystallizing in delicate patterns before vanishing again. The cold is relentless. It seeps into every fiber of your being, as if the planet itself is trying to pull you into its frozen depths. You take another step, boots pressing into the hardened surface. Beneath your feet, the ice shifts, groaning under its own immense pressure. That sound, deep, ancient, almost alive, fills the silence of this frozen world. And in a way, Europa is alive, not with wind, not with volcanic eruptions or raging storms, but with something hidden beneath the ice. The radio crackles, mission control to Explorer, conducting deep surface scan. You glance down at your wrist display as your suit's sensors pulse downward, mapping the world beneath you. And the readings confirm what you already knew. There is movement beneath the surface. Slow, methodical, ever-changing. Europa's ice shell is not still. It is constantly shifting, cracking, reforming. Tidal forces from Jupiter's gravity stretch and compress the entire moon, generating heat deep below. And that heat does something impossible. It keeps the ocean beneath from freezing solid. You kneel, pressing your palm against the ice. There is an ocean beneath you. A vast, hidden abyss that could hold more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. You close your eyes, imagining what it must look like. Not blue, not shimmering with sunlight, but dark. So dark that light has never touched its depths. So deep that no human has ever seen what lurks within. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Subsurface conditions remain unknown. Potential for microbial life remains unconfirmed. You open your eyes. That's the real question, isn't it? Not just if humans could survive here, but if something else already does. You stand slowly, glancing at the horizon, at the endless frozen wasteland stretching in every direction. There is no sign of life here. No plants, no atmosphere. And yet, beneath this surface, there could be something. On Earth, in the darkest depths of the ocean, life thrives around hydrothermal vents, creatures that need no sunlight, feeding off chemical energy from the planet itself. Could the same be true here? Could something alien be swimming beneath your feet right now, blind and ancient, drifting through Europa's endless sea? You shiver, not from the cold, but from the possibility, because if life exists here, it would change everything. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Begin assessment of long-term habitability. You take a slow breath. Because unlike Mercury, unlike Io, unlike Venus, this time, the answer isn't an immediate no. Europa is hostile. It is frozen, deadly, constantly bathed in radiation. But beneath the ice, there is hope. You picture it. A future where humans don't just explore this world, but live here. Not on the surface, but below. You imagine an outpost, built into the ice, shielded from radiation, with tunnels leading downward into the depths. A station carved into the frozen crust, where submarines could descend into the alien ocean below. Scientists exploring a world no human has ever touched. You picture the first time a human lowers a camera into the water, watching the unknown flicker to life on a screen. What would they see? Endless, empty darkness? Or something watching back? You exhale, staring down at the frozen ground. If there is life here, it has never seen the surface, never felt the warmth of the sun, never known a world beyond its ocean prison. And maybe it is better that way. Because if we come here, if we descend into those depths, We will no longer be explorers. We will be intruders. You step away from the cracked ice, forcing yourself to look at the sky again. Jupiter looms above, larger than anything should ever be, its swirling storms twisting in slow, unstoppable motion. For all of Europa's mysteries, it is still a moon in chains, bound to a planet that will never let it go. The radiation will always be here, the ice will always shift and crack, and the ocean beneath, if it holds life, will remain hidden for now. Because Europa is not ready for us. Not yet. The radio crackles one final time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You take one last look at the ice, at the possibilities it holds, at the secrets it refuses to give up. Then the pull begins. The cold vanishes. The crushing silence is replaced by something else, something heavier, and when your vision clears, you are no longer standing on ice. Beneath your boots, the ground is dark, rocky, lifeless. The sky above is black, empty, and ahead of you, a world of craters and silence. A world called Ganymede. The moment you arrive, the silence is overwhelming. No storms, no rushing winds, no shifting ice beneath your feet, just stillness. You take a cautious step forward, your boots pressing into dark, rocky terrain. For the first time in a long time, you are standing on solid ground that does not burn, does not shift, does not melt beneath you. And yet something feels eerie about this place. You glance upward. The sky is black. Not the deep orange haze of Mars, not the turbulent cloud cover of Venus. Just pure, empty blackness, broken only by the distant glow of the sun. And then you see it. Jupiter. Even larger than it was on Europa, looming over the horizon, a massive colossus of swirling clouds and endless storms. Its gravity tugs at this world, shaping everything in ways you cannot see, but can feel. This is Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, bigger than Mercury, larger than Pluto. If it orbited the Sun instead of Jupiter, it would be considered a planet. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Surface conditions confirmed. Gravity, 15% of Earth's. Average temperature, negative 260 degrees Fahrenheit. You take another step. The ground beneath you is strange. At first, it looks like solid rock, ancient and cratered. But your suit's sensors detect something else. There is ice mixed in with the rock. Ganymede is not just a moon of stone. It is a world of ice and dust, frozen for billions of years. And beneath this surface, there may be an ocean. Just like Europa, you kneel, pressing your glove against the ground. Your suit's seismic sensors pulse downward. The readings are strange. Beneath the frozen crust, there is liquid water, buried deep, locked away beneath miles of ice and rock, but it's there, and it's not just a small reservoir. Some scientists believe that Ganymede's ocean could be deeper than Europa's. That means, if life exists beneath the ice, Ganymede may hold even more secrets than its smaller neighbor. You exhale, frost forming on your visor. For all its stillness, this world is not as dead as it seems. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Magnetic field detected. Assess potential for radiation shielding. You blink. A magnetic field. Here? You check your wrist display. The readings confirm it. Ganymede is the only moon in the solar system with its own magnetic field, which means this place is protected. Unlike Europa and Io, which are constantly bombarded by Jupiter's deadly radiation, Ganymede's magnetic field provides a natural shield. That changes everything. For the first time in this journey, radiation is not your greatest enemy. For the first time, you are standing on a world where long-term human survival is not impossible. You glance around again, taking in the vast, cratered landscape. It is ancient, scarred by impacts that have remained untouched for billions of years, and yet not entirely lifeless, because there is something unusual about Ganymede's surface. Unlike Europa, where the ice is smooth and cracked, Ganymede's ice is rough, distorted, almost as if something has churned it up, then refrozen it in chaotic patterns. Some scientists believe this is evidence of geological activity, that beneath the crust something is moving, not lava, but water, slowly rising, shifting, breaking through the surface, then freezing again over millions of years, which means Ganymede may not be completely frozen. You step carefully over a jagged ridge, scanning the horizon. If humans were to settle here, this would be the first place they would look. Because water is everything. With water you can make oxygen. With water you can drink. With water you can create fuel. And Ganymede has plenty of it. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Assess long-term habitability. You take a slow breath. Because for the first time, this question does not feel impossible. You picture it. A human colony, built beneath the ice, protected from the cold, powered by geothermal energy from deep below. Not a city on the surface, but a network of tunnels stretching downward, leading to the hidden ocean below. A world where humans do not build upward, but downward, into the depths of a frozen alien sea. A place where submarines could explore a new frontier in a world untouched by time. It would be difficult, harsh, but not impossible. Because Ganymede is not like Io. It is not burning. It is not like Europa. It is not drowning in radiation. It is not like Mars. It is not barren, dry, hopeless. It is something else. Something in between. A world that could be home. You step back from the jagged ridge, scanning the landscape one last time. There is no air to breathe, no warmth to comfort you. But beneath your feet there is a hidden ocean. And in that ocean, who knows what awaits? You exhale, watching frost form on your visor again. You are not done here, not yet. You stand still, listening. There is no sound here, no wind, no storms, no rushing water beneath your feet, just silence. And yet, you know this world is not as still as it seems. You glance down at the ground, at the strange, chaotic formations of ice and rock. Your boots press into the frozen surface, but unlike Europa, this ice is different. Rougher, distorted, as if something beneath the surface is shifting. The radio crackles, mission control to Explorer. Seismic readings suggest deep subsurface movement. You glance at your wrist display. The data confirms it. Ganymede's ice is not as solid as it looks. Beneath you, something is moving. Not earthquakes, not volcanoes, but the slow, steady shifting of an ocean hidden beneath miles of ice. You kneel, pressing your gloved hand against the ground. The readings are strange, different from Europa. Europa's ice is smooth, constantly cracking and reforming. Ganymede's ice is jagged, rough, as if something deep below occasionally forces its way upward. Some scientists believe that Ganymede's ocean is layered, water trapped between thick sheets of ice, shifting under the pressure of its own weight. Others think that massive saltwater plumes might occasionally break through, flooding the surface before freezing solid again. Either way, one thing is certain. There is liquid water here. And where there is water, there is a question. Not if humans could survive here, but if something else already does. You take a slow step back, scanning the distant horizon. If there is life on Ganymede, it has never known the warmth of a sun. It has never seen the stars. It has never felt the pull of gravity as you do. But in the endless blackness beneath the ice, something could be swimming, something ancient, something waiting. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer, conducting atmospheric scan. You check your readings. The numbers confirm what you already knew. There is no air here. Ganymede has an atmosphere, but it is so thin it is barely more than a ghost. Mostly oxygen, but not enough to breathe. And unlike Europa, where Jupiter's radiation would kill you in minutes, Ganymede's magnetic field offers protection. It is the only moon in the solar system with its own magnetic field, which means, for the first time, you are on a world that is not instantly lethal. It is not safe, but it is possible. You imagine it, the first human settlement beneath the ice, not cities on the surface, but tunnels, carved deep below, where geothermal heat could provide warmth, where the ice itself could act as a radiation shield. A world where humans do not walk on land, but swim through dark, alien waters. A place where submarines explore an ocean that has been sealed away for billions of years. If life exists here, it has been waiting in the dark for longer than Earth itself has existed. And if humans come here, they will not be explorers, they will be visitors, or worse, intruders. You glance upward again at Jupiter filling the sky. It is beautiful, massive, unrelenting. Even from here you can see the swirling storms, the churning clouds, the great red spots still raging after centuries. Ganymede is a moon in chains, a world caught in the gravity of a giant that does not care if it survives or not. And yet, it endures. It has been here for billions of years. It will remain long after you are gone. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Final assessment. Is survival possible? You exhale slowly, and for the first time, you do not immediately say no, because Ganymede is different. It is not trying to kill you. It is not suffocating, not melting, not burning, not tearing itself apart. It is quiet, cold, but full of potential. It is the first place where humanity could settle beyond Mars. Not in comfort, not in luxury, but in survival. You take one last look at the frozen world around you, at the endless sheets of ice, at the jagged ridges torn apart by unseen forces, at Jupiter ever present in the sky, and you realize Ganymede is not just another moon. It is a world of its own. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You inhale, bracing yourself. Then the pull begins. The cold fades, the ice disappears, and when your vision clears, you are floating. No ground beneath your feet, no ice, no rock, no surface at all. You are drifting through a world of vapor and storms, a world called Saturn. The moment you arrive, you are falling again. Not onto solid ground, not onto ice or rock or dust, but into clouds, endless, thick, golden clouds. You are plunging into the second largest planet in the solar system, Saturn, a world so massive that it could fit over 700 Earths inside it, a world that, like Jupiter, has no surface to land on. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Atmospheric entry detected. Gravity 91% of Earth's, wind speeds increasing. You brace yourself. The descent is fast. The air around you thickens, pushing against your body, dragging you down. And then the winds hit. A violent, howling force slams into you, tearing in every direction. You are caught in the jet streams in Saturn's relentless winds that reach over 1,100 miles per hour, faster than any hurricane on Earth. And this is only the beginning, because Saturn's atmosphere is layered. The deeper you go, the stranger things become. You check your visor display. Atmospheric composition, 96% hydrogen, 3% helium, trace amounts of methane and ammonia. No oxygen, no chance to breathe. If your suit failed, you would suffocate instantly. But that isn't even the worst part, because the deeper you fall, the more Saturn begins to change. The golden clouds around you shift, darkening to deeper shades of yellow and brown. You are descending into the second layer of Saturn's atmosphere, where ammonia ice crystallizes in freezing temperatures, forming endless storm clouds. You glance around. Lightning flashes in the distance, but it is not like lightning on Earth. It is stronger, brighter. On Saturn, a single storm can be larger than the entire planet Earth. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Extreme atmospheric activity detected. Warning, approaching storm cell. You look up and see it. A storm unlike anything you have ever witnessed. Not chaotic like Jupiter's great red spot. Not violent like the storms of Neptune. This one is perfectly shaped. A hexagon. A massive, swirling, six-sided vortex, locked at Saturn's North Pole, raging for centuries without end. You stare in awe. A hurricane so massive that Earth could fit inside it multiple times over. You know that scientists still don't fully understand how this hexagonal storm exists. Some believe that Saturn's strange jet streams create standing wave patterns, trapping the storm in this unnatural shape. But the truth? No one knows for sure. All you know is that you do not want to be pulled into it. You stabilize yourself, adjusting your suit's descent control. For a brief moment, you hover, weightless, surrounded by the alien beauty of Saturn's skies. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer, confirming deeper atmospheric layers ahead. You hesitate, because below you, there is no escape. Saturn is a planet with no surface. If you continue downward, the pressure will only rise. The deeper you go, the more the air itself will change. At first, it will become a supercritical fluid, thick, heavy, neither fully gas nor fully liquid. And deeper still, the hydrogen will turn into liquid metal, a vast metallic ocean churning with unimaginable force, stretching thousands of miles deep. And beneath that, a mystery. Some believe that Saturn has a solid core, made of rock and ice, crushed beneath the weight of the entire planet. Others believe that there is no solid core at all, just an endless compression of elements, growing denser and hotter without ever solidifying. Either way, you would never reach it, because before you got there, you would be crushed. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer, pressure levels rising, suit integrity at 73%. You check your readings. You don't have much time left. If you stay here, Saturn will consume you. And yet, you look around one last time at the golden clouds, the lightning storms, the massive hexagonal vortex raging in the distance. A world of beauty and chaos where gravity and pressure shape everything. A world where nothing survives. Not humans. Not life as we know it. Saturn is not a home. It is a god. Massive. Indifferent. A force of nature that does not care whether you survive or not. And now it is time to leave. But you are not done yet. Not before you see something else. Something that has drawn explorers' eyes for centuries. Something more famous than Saturn itself. Because this planet has a secret. Not inside it, but around it. The rings. You brace yourself, and just as the pressure begins to crush you, the pull begins, the thick clouds vanish, the golden storms dissolve into blackness, and when your vision clears, you are no longer falling, you are floating, surrounded by a field of ice and rock, stretching as far as you can see. You are inside Saturn's rings. You are no longer falling. The thick, golden clouds of Saturn are gone. The storms, the crushing atmosphere, the endless winds, all of it has vanished. And now, you are somewhere else. Somewhere even more unreal. You are floating, weightless, surrounded by a vast cosmic masterpiece. Saturn's rings, a structure so famous that it has become more iconic than the planet itself. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Confirmed entry into ring system. Maintain caution. Debris field detected. You turn and for the first time you see it. The full glory of Saturn's rings, stretching across the sky like a celestial highway. From Earth, they seem like a single solid band. Up close, they are something else entirely. The rings are not one object, but trillions. Countless pieces of ice, rock, and dust orbiting the planet in perfect, delicate alignment. You reach out, drifting toward a nearby fragment. It is smaller than your hand, smooth, frozen, spinning slowly. And yet there are others, far larger. Chunks of ice as big as cars, as mountains. Some fragments are nearly a mile wide, and all of them are moving. Fast. Your visor display updates. Tracking speeds of up to 48,000 miles per hour. That's 20 times faster than a bullet. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Structural integrity warning. Collision risk detected. You adjust your position, stabilizing yourself among the drifting debris, because as beautiful as this place is, it is also dangerous. The ring particles may seem delicate from afar, but they are moving at incredible speeds. A single impact, even with a pebble-sized fragment, could be catastrophic. You glance around. The rings are not uniform. Some areas are densely packed, filled with chaotic collisions and spinning debris. Others are almost empty, vast gaps where the gravitational forces of Saturn's many moons have carved out lanes of nothingness. And then you realize something. These rings are not permanent. They look timeless, but they are dying, slowly, silently. Saturn's gravity is pulling the rings inward, dissolving them piece by piece. Some scientists believe that in a few 100 million years they will be gone. Saturn will be left naked, a giant without its crown. You watch as a nearby ice fragment drifts past, slowly spinning. For billions of years it has been here, circling, waiting. And then it vanishes, pulled into Saturn's gravity well, spiraling downward, lost forever. The rings are falling, and someday they will be nothing but a memory. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Final assessment. Survival potential. You stare at the endless drifting ice, at the massive planet looming beyond it. Survival. Not here. Not in Saturn's rings where there is no ground to stand on, no air to breathe, no protection from the speeding debris. And not on Saturn itself where falling too deep means being crushed under the weight of a gas giant. Saturn is not a home. It is a marvel, a place to observe, to study, but never to live. You take a final glance at the rings, a frozen graveyard, beautiful, fragile, fading, a world that cannot be touched. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You exhale, and just as a massive shard of ice drifts past, so close you could reach out and touch it, the pull begins. The cold vanishes. The rings blur into nothing, and when your vision clears, you are standing on the surface of a moon. The ground beneath you is solid, but strange. It is not rock, it is not ice, it is something in between. The air is thick with orange haze blocking out the sun, and ahead, lakes. But they are not water. This is Titan. And this is a world unlike any other. The moment you arrive, everything feels different. You brace for the familiar sensation of crushing gravity, burning heat, or an endless freefall into toxic clouds. But none of that happens. Instead, you are standing on solid ground. And the first thing you notice, it feels strangely familiar. The air around you is thick, thicker than anything you've experienced outside of Earth. A dense, golden haze blankets the landscape, stretching toward the horizon like a permanent twilight. You glance at your wrist display. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, the only moon in the solar system with a thick atmosphere. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Surface conditions confirmed. Gravity 14% of Earth's. Atmospheric pressure 1.5 times Earth's. Temperature negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit. You take a cautious step forward. Your boots crunch into something strange. Not rock, not ice. Something in between. You kneel, brushing your gloved hand against the surface. It looks like sand. But it isn't. It's frozen hydrocarbons, grains of ice coated in organic compounds, forming dunes that stretch for miles. This world is alien, and yet it is oddly Earth-like. You stand again, scanning the landscape, and that's when you see them. Lakes, massive bodies of liquid glistening under the dim orange sky. At first, your brain tells you it must be water. But the readings say otherwise. It isn't water, it is liquid methane. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm presence of surface liquids. Composition, methane and ethane. Your breath catches. This is the only place in the solar system, aside from Earth, with stable bodies of liquid on its surface. But here, water is not the liquid of life. Here, methane and ethane take its place. You step toward the shore, staring at the dark, still liquid. If you tried to drink it, it would kill you instantly. If you fell in, you wouldn't sink. The liquid is so dense, so cold that it would hold you afloat. You glance at your wrist display again. Titan is freezing. At nearly -300 degrees Fahrenheit, water here is not a liquid. It is as hard as rock. And yet, even in this alien cold, something stirs beneath the surface. Not life, but movement. Methane rain falling in slow, delicate drops, clouds drifting overhead, feeding Titan's strange, alien cycle of rain, rivers and seas. This world has weather, not with water, not with oxygen, but with something else, and that changes everything. Because for the first time, this is not just a world of rock and ice. It is a world that moves, a world that breathes, a world that, in some twisted, frozen way, might be alive. You step away from the shore, your boots leaving shallow impressions in the frozen sand. If Titan is Earth's distant twin, it is a twin in a nightmare. Everything here is wrong. The lakes aren't water. The air is thick but unbreathable, 98% nitrogen mixed with methane and hydrogen. Your suit's filters scan the composition. There is no oxygen here. But what's more, if there was, Titan would burn. You glance upward at the sky. The atmosphere is loaded with flammable hydrocarbons. If you introduced even a small amount of oxygen into the air, it would ignite the entire planet. The sky itself would become an inferno. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Long-term habitability assessment in progress. You exhale, watching as your breath fogs inside your helmet. Could humans live here? The answer is strange. Because for all its dangers, Titan is one of the most promising places in the solar system for future colonies. You step forward again, testing the gravity. Low, but manageable. At only 14% of Earth's gravity, you feel light, weightless, but not helpless. With wings, you could fly here. The air is thick enough, the gravity low enough that a human with artificial wings could simply flap their arms and take off. You stare at the horizon. Titan is unlike any place you have ever been. It is deadly, but it is possible. A place where humans could survive with the right technology, where underground habitats could be built, sheltered from the cold. where methane lakes could be tapped for energy, fueling an outpost in the outer solar system. You imagine it, a colony beneath the ice, a research station floating on the liquid methane seas. Titan is not comfortable, it is not easy, but it is possible, and that changes everything, because Titan is not just a dead moon, it is a world waiting to be explored. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Additional data required. You nod. Because you are not done here yet. You take another step, feeling your boots sink slightly into the frozen terrain. Despite the thick atmosphere pressing down, your movements are almost effortless. Titan's low gravity makes you feel light, almost buoyant. You push off the ground a little harder than usual, and suddenly you are airborne, floating. For a brief moment you are flying, not in a spaceship, not with thrusters, just your own body, lifted by the strange physics of this world. Here, a human could strap on wings and actually soar through the air. But before you have time to enjoy the sensation, something hits your helmet. A tiny frozen droplet. Then another and another. It's raining. You glance up toward the thick, orange sky, watching as slow, heavy raindrops fall silently from the clouds above. But this is not rain as you know it. It is liquid methane. Not water, not something life-giving, something that could never sustain humans. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Surface precipitation detected. Confirm methane rainfall activity. You nod, watching as the droplets hit the ground, pooling into shallow puddles before sinking into the frozen soil. Titan is the only place in the solar system, aside from Earth, where it rains. But this rain is not for us. You take a slow breath, your visor misting slightly before the internal regulators clear it again. Even through your helmet, the air feels heavy, dense, suffocating. Your suit sensors confirm what you already knew. 98% nitrogen, no oxygen, nothing to breathe. And yet, this is the most Earth-like atmosphere in the entire solar system. A strange contradiction. Titan feels familiar, but it is completely alien. You glance at your wrist display. Negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit, colder than any place on Earth. At this temperature, water is not just frozen, it is as hard as rock. You kneel, tapping your knuckles against a solid chunk of ice sticking out from the ground. It feels like stone, and that's because on Titan it is. Water ice acts like bedrock here, forming mountains, cliffs and valleys. The liquid lakes are not water at all, but methane and ethane, flowing like rivers, carving through ice as if it was soft earth. This is a world upside down, a place where rock is water and water is rock. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Begin assessment of long-term habitability. You exhale, because this is where Titan becomes strange. Most planets and moons try to kill you immediately. Mercury, too hot. Venus, crushing and toxic. Io, a volcanic hellscape. Saturn and Jupiter, you'd be crushed before you could even scream. But Titan gives you a chance. You could, with the right technology, survive here. Not on the surface. It's too cold. But beneath it, you picture it. Underground bases buried beneath layers of ice for insulation. or even better, floating habitats resting on the vast methane seas. The lakes, though unbreathable, could be used for fuel. The thick atmosphere would shield you from radiation. For the first time since Mars, you are on a world where humans could stay. Not easily, not comfortably, but long enough to matter. You step closer to the shore of one of Titan's lakes. The surface is dark, almost mirror-like, perfectly still. You wonder, if something was watching you from beneath, would you even see it? You shake off the thought. There is no life here, or at least not as we understand it. You take one last look at the alien landscape around you. The towering ice formations, the golden haze, the distant mountains sculpted from frozen water. Titan is not Earth, but it is the closest thing we have found. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You exhale. Then the pull begins. The thick air thins. The golden sky fades. The cold, frozen landscape melts into darkness. And when your vision clears, you're no longer standing. You are floating again. But this time, something is wrong. The darkness is complete. The air is still. And in the distance, something glows faintly in the blackness. A world colder than Titan, a world further than any you have seen before. A world called Enceladus. The moment you arrive, you feel nothing. No wind, no gravity pulling at you, no sound, just silence. You float for a moment, adjusting to the complete darkness surrounding you. Then, a glimmer. Faint, distant, barely visible. But there. You turn toward it, and suddenly the blackness is shattered. A geyser of ice explodes from the surface below, jetting upward in a massive plume, reaching miles into space before falling back down as frozen mist. You glance at your wrist display. You are above Enceladus, a tiny, frozen moon of Saturn, a world that at first glance should be dead, and yet it is not. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Surface conditions confirmed. Gravity 1% of Earth's average temperature, negative 330 degrees Fahrenheit. You exhale, watching as a cloud of frozen vapor drifts past you, illuminated by the dim lights of the distant sun. This is one of the coldest places you have ever been, and yet this moon is alive. You adjust your trajectory, descending toward the surface. Below, the landscape comes into view. A vast, endless sheet of ice. No mountains, no valleys, just smooth, frozen plains, stretching in every direction. You land gently, your boots pressing into the icy surface with barely any resistance. And the first thing you notice, it is not silent. The ice beneath your feet is shifting, cracking, groaning, as if something beneath it is moving. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Seismic activity detected. Confirm presence of subsurface liquid water. You already know the answer. Because beneath this frozen wasteland there is an ocean. Not a small reservoir. Not a hidden lake. A global ocean, buried beneath miles of ice, stretching from pole to pole. And it's not just water, it is warm, heated by tidal forces from Saturn's gravity, flexing and squeezing the moon's core. generating enough heat to keep the ocean liquid beneath the ice. This is why the geysers exist, water from deep below, escaping through cracks in the ice, spewing into space in massive plumes. And you know what that means? This is not just a frozen wasteland. This is a place where life might exist. You kneel, pressing your glove against the icy ground. It is solid beneath you, but you can feel it. The faintest vibration, a pulse, as if the world beneath you is breathing, and in a way, it is. You check your wrist display. Subsurface temperature 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The ocean below is at the perfect temperature for liquid water. And where there is liquid water, there is a chance. A chance that in the darkness beneath this ice, something is alive. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Initiate deep scan for organic compounds. You activate the scanners, sending pulses deep into the ice. It takes a moment, then a result. Your breath catches. There are complex organic molecules in the plumes, not just water, not just salt, but the building blocks of life. A shiver runs down your spine, because this changes everything. For the first time, you are not just wondering if humans could survive here. You are wondering if something already does. Beneath the ice, hidden in the dark, drifting through the ocean, feeding off the heat from hydrothermal vents deep below, could there be life? Not cities, not civilizations, but something small, something ancient, something waiting. You stand slowly, scanning the frozen horizon. Enceladus is deceptive. It looks dead, silent, frozen beyond reason. But beneath its surface it is moving, changing, alive. And if humans ever come here, they will not be explorers. They will be the first visitors to a world that may not be empty. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Additional data required. You nod, because you are not done here yet. There is more to uncover, more to understand. And for the first time in this journey, you are not sure if you are alone. You stand motionless, listening to the groans of the ice beneath you. The surface of Enceladus never stops shifting. Unlike Europa, where the ice moves in slow geological time, Enceladus is constantly active. It is alive in a way no other moon is. And then you feel it. A tremor. Not an earthquake, a pulse. Faint, distant. Something beneath the ice is moving. Your wrist display flares with a new reading. Another geyser is about to erupt. You turn, scanning the horizon. And then, the sky splits open. A massive jet of water explodes upward, stretching miles into space. It moves silently, in the low gravity of Enceladus, arching like a frozen river reaching for the stars. You watch in awe as particles of ice shimmer in the dim sunlight, suspended in Saturn's gravity like dust caught in a golden beam. And for the first time you feel small. Not because of danger, not because of crushing atmospheres or burning heat, but because this place does not care about you. It has been doing this for millions of years, long before humans ever looked toward the stars. And long after you are gone, it will continue. An endless cycle of water, heat, movement. A system that, against all odds, should not exist. And yet it does. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Assess potential for long-term habitability. You exhale slowly, because this is the hardest question yet. Could humans survive here? The surface? Number. Enceladus is too cold, too unstable, too barren. But beneath the ice? That is a different story. You imagine it, a colony drilled into the thick crust, using the natural heat from below to stay warm. A station not on the surface, but beneath it. Submarines descending into the dark ocean, searching for signs of life. Hydrothermal vents providing warmth, energy, and possibly even food. It wouldn't be easy, but it is not impossible. Enceladus is not like Mars, where survival means struggling against the land. Here, survival means diving into the unknown. You take a slow step forward, your boots pressing into the frozen surface, and suddenly, a thought crosses your mind. If humans ever come here, we will not be the first things to swim in this ocean. You stare at the ground, at the thick, cracked ice beneath your feet, and you wonder, if something is alive down there in the endless dark, does it know we are coming? Does it want us here? Or will we be the intruders? The radio crackles one final time. Mission control to Explorer. Prepare for next destination. You exhale, watching the frozen mist swirl around you. Then, the pull begins. The ice fades. The cold vanishes. The stars blur into nothing. And when your vision clears, you are somewhere further than ever before. A world of deep blue. A world of violent winds. A world called Uranus. The moment you arrive, everything turns blue. Not just the sky, not just the clouds. Everything. A deep, rich, eerie shade of blue stretching across the entire sky, wrapping around you like an endless ocean. But you are not in an ocean. You are falling, fast, into a planet that defies all expectations. Uranus, a world that shouldn't be this color, a world that shouldn't be this cold, a world that shouldn't exist the way it does. Yet somehow it does. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Atmospheric entry detected. Gravity, 89% of Earth's. Wind speeds increasing. You brace yourself, because this planet is different from any you've seen before, not just because it's a gas giant like Jupiter and Saturn, not just because it's cold enough to freeze the air inside your lungs, but because it is sideways. Uranus doesn't spin like a normal planet. It is tilted, completely on its side, rolling through space like a cosmic marble. No other planet in the solar system rotates like this, and because of that, everything about Uranus is strange. Its seasons last 42 years at a time. Half of the planet spends decades in unbroken daylight. The other half is trapped in eternal night. And right now, you are plummeting into that endless sky. The clouds around you begin to shift. You check your wrist display. Atmospheric composition, 83% hydrogen, 15% helium, 2% methane. And that's when you realize the methane is why everything is blue. On Jupiter and Saturn, the skies are colored by ammonia and complex cloud systems. Here, methane absorbs red light and scatters blue, giving Uranus its ghostly alien glow. You descend deeper and the winds begin to howl. Not as fast as Saturn's monstrous storms, but still faster than anything on Earth. Your suit compensates, stabilizing your fall, but you are still dropping into the unknown. Because unlike Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus is not just gas. It is something else. A type of planet never seen anywhere else in the solar system. An ice giant. You check your visor display. Temperature, negative 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Colder than any place you have ever been. Even colder than Neptune. Even colder than Pluto. Colder than should be possible. You frown. This planet is twice as far from the Sun as Saturn, yet it is far colder than it should be. And nobody knows why. Something about Uranus prevents it from holding on to heat. It radiates almost no internal warmth, unlike Jupiter, Saturn, and even Neptune. It is silent, still, almost dead. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Warning, extreme atmospheric pressure detected below. You already know what that means. There is no surface to land on. Not in any way you'd recognize. So if you keep falling, you will enter a realm beyond physics. A place where the sky stops being a gas and starts becoming something else. A place where Uranus stops being air and becomes an ocean. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm presence of supercritical fluid layer. You take a slow breath, because you know what's coming. As you drop deeper, the air becomes thicker. You shouldn't be able to tell the difference, but you can feel it. Moving through this atmosphere feels like moving through water. You glance at your wrist display. The numbers are rising. In pressure, 100 times Earth's atmosphere. Temperature, negative 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then, everything changes. You are no longer falling through air. You are sinking. The gases around you have become so dense that they are no longer behaving like a normal atmosphere. They are not a gas, but not quite a liquid. They are something in between, a supercritical fluid. No clouds, no sky, just a vast, endless sea of thick, crushing material, stretching deeper than the human mind can comprehend. And beneath that, something even stranger. A place so alien that even scientists struggle to imagine it. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Theoretical layer detected. Hot ice. You blink. Because you know what that means. Uranus is not like Jupiter. It is not like Saturn. It is not even like Neptune. Because beneath this strange, crushing ocean of supercritical gas, there is something that should not exist. A layer of water, but not liquid water, not ice as you know it. Something else, something called hot ice. Water that has been compressed so violently by the crushing gravity of Uranus that it remains solid, despite being thousands of degrees hot. You reach out a hand. You cannot see it, but you know it's there. A strange, burning ocean of frozen water, buried thousands of miles below the clouds. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Suit integrity at 42%. Extraction recommended. You glance downward. If you continue sinking, you will reach the core, a place no human or machine has ever seen, a core made of rock and exotic ice, crushed beyond recognition, a world so alien, so impossible, that even theories struggle to explain it. You hesitate, because Uranus is different. It is not Jupiter raging with storms. It is not Saturn glowing with golden clouds. It is not Neptune howling with winds. It is empty, quiet, a frozen giant lost in the blackness of space, so cold that even heat itself cannot escape. A world that keeps its secrets locked away, forever out of reach. And before you can think about it further, the pull begins. The deep ocean of supercritical gas vanishes. The crushing blue atmosphere fades into nothing. And when your vision clears, you are falling again. But this time, it is different. The air around you isn't blue, it is darker, colder, faster, because this is not Uranus anymore. This is Neptune, and you are about to enter the windiest, most violent planet in the solar system. You are falling again. But this time it is different. This time you are falling into a storm. The moment you enter Neptune's atmosphere, you feel it. Not just the gravity, not just the pressure, but the wind. A force so powerful, so relentless, that it threatens to tear you apart before you even have a chance to react. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Atmospheric entry detected. Gravity, 114% of Earth's. Wind speeds. The signal cuts out for a moment. Then, wind speeds exceeding 1,300 miles per hour. You stiffen. That's faster than the speed of sound. The fastest winds in the solar system. And you are plummeting directly into them. You twist in midair, stabilizing yourself as Neptune's endless blue clouds swirl around you. The atmosphere here is different from Uranus. Darker, deeper, more violent. The blue is not soft or gentle, it is raging. Neptune's color comes from methane in the upper atmosphere, just like Uranus. But something about this planet makes it darker, richer, more intense. And then a flash. Lightning. Not yellow, not white, but bright, electric blue. It cracks through the clouds like a living thing, illuminating the storm around you in violent, flickering pulses. And then you see it. Below you, a storm the size of Earth itself. A massive, swirling vortex of pure destruction. The great dark spot. The most powerful storm on the most powerful planet in the solar system. The winds inside that vortex could rip steel apart like paper. And you are falling straight toward it. You check your visor display. Atmospheric composition, 80% hydrogen, 19% helium, 1% methane, no oxygen, no chance to breathe. And worse, the deeper you fall, the colder it gets. You glance at your wrist display. Negative 370 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest atmosphere in the solar system. Colder than Pluto. Colder than Uranus, even though Neptune is further from the sun than Uranus. It somehow holds on to more heat. And yet, it is still freezing. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Temperature dropping. Risk of atmospheric crystallization detected. You hesitate, because that means something terrifying. The air around you is so cold it is freezing into ice crystals as you fall. You glance upward. Tiny diamond-shaped ice particles swirl around you, catching the dim light. Neptune's air is literally freezing solid, and that's not even your biggest problem, because you are still falling deeper. The pressure is increasing, the temperature is dropping, and ahead of you, the great dark spot looms, spinning faster than any storm in the solar system. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm supercritical transition approaching. You exhale, because you know what's coming next. Just like Jupiter, just like Saturn, just like Uranus, there is no surface here. If you continue falling, the air itself will change. It will stop behaving like a gas. It will become something else, something impossible. You glance at your wrist display. Pressure. 1,000 times Earth's atmosphere. And then, the change happens. You are no longer falling through clouds. You are sinking into a sea of supercritical fluid. Not gas, not liquid, something in between. The sky above disappears, the lightning fades, the winds vanish, and suddenly, there is only silence. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Confirm transition into deep atmospheric layer. You glance downward, but there is nothing to see. No bottom, no solid ground, just the crushing weight of Neptune's deep, endless blue. And below you, a place that defies science itself, a place where the impossible becomes real. The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer. Warning, extreme conditions detected below, confirming presence of... The signal cuts out, and before you can react, the darkness comes alive. The darkness is moving. You can't see it, but you can feel it. A pressure growing, shifting, alive. You are sinking deeper into Neptune's abyss. A place so far beyond human experience that even light struggles to exist here. The radio crackles, barely. Mission control to Explorer, confirming presence of ice rain. You blink, because that should not be possible. But then, something streaks past you. Fast, small, it is not rain, it is not ice. It is a diamond. Another one follows. Then another. A storm of falling diamonds, rushing downward, deeper into Neptune's interior, sinking toward a place you can never reach. Because here, in the lower atmosphere, carbon is crushed under so much pressure that it turns into diamonds, falling like rain, sinking for eternity. You watch as the gemstones vanish into the depths, because beneath this storm there is something even stranger, something that science struggles to explain. The radio crackles weakly. Mission control to Explorer, confirming presence of liquid metal ocean. You take a slow breath, because you know what this means. You are descending toward a sea of liquefied, metallic hydrogen, a place where physics itself starts to break. The pressure here is so intense hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, is forced into a metallic state. It does not flow like water. It does not act like metal. It is something else. A churning electric ocean capable of conducting vast amounts of energy. The very thing that fuels Neptune's massive, complex magnetic field. And beneath that, the core, a place of unimaginable pressure. Some scientists believe it is solid, made of rock and ice, crushed under millions of atmospheres of force. Others think there is no true core, only a mass of exotic materials, blending together in a way that cannot be replicated anywhere else. You glance at your wrist display. Suit integrity, 15%. You don't have much time. The pressure is too much. The cold is too deep. And Neptune, it does not care. This world is not just deadly. It is unknowable. Even the best human technology could never survive here. And before you can fall any deeper, the pull begins. The crushing weight vanishes. The endless blue fades into nothing. And when your vision clears, you are no longer sinking. You are no longer falling. You are standing on solid ground. Not gas, not supercritical fluids, but rock, dark, frozen, ancient. A world on the edge of the solar system. A world so far away that the sun is just a distant star in the sky. A world called Pluto. The moment you arrive, everything is quiet. Not like Neptune's deep, crushing silence. Not like Titan's eerie, hazy stillness. This is a different kind of silence. The silence of distance. Because here, at the edge of the solar system, you are further from the sun than ever before. You glance up. The sun, the thing that once dominated every sky you've stood beneath, is now just a tiny point of light. No longer a golden presence. No longer a source of warmth. Just a distant, lonely star. You exhale and, for the first time in this journey, you can see your breath, a delicate mist curling inside your helmet, vanishing in the freezing air. You check your wrist display. Pluto, a world so small that it was once called a planet, then stripped of its title, and yet it is still here. The radio crackles, mission control to Explorer, surface conditions confirmed, gravity 6% of Earth's, temperature negative 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You take a step forward. Your boots crunch into something unexpected. Not rock, not dust, but frozen nitrogen. Here on Pluto, the ground is made of solid nitrogen ice. You kneel, pressing a gloved hand against the surface. It is colder than anything you have ever touched. So cold that steel would shatter like glass. So cold that even your suit is struggling to keep up. You glance at your wrist display. Low gravity, thin atmosphere, surface pressure, barely anything at all. If you removed your helmet, your blood would boil and freeze at the same time. Pluto is trying to kill you. And yet, it is beautiful. You stand slowly, scanning the horizon. This world is unlike any other. Not barren like Mercury. Not storm-racked like Jupiter. Not toxic like Venus. Pluto is quiet. The landscape stretches for miles, smooth and untouched. And in the distance, a mountain, but not a normal mountain. You take a cautious step forward, because this is not made of rock. It is made of solid water ice. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer, confirming presence of water ice mountains. You already knew. Because on Pluto, water is as hard as stone. It forms mountains, cliffs, valleys shaped by forces unseen. And that's not even the strangest part. You glance at your visor display. Something else is here. Something unexpected. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer, confirming presence of glaciers, movement detected. You frown, because Pluto is so cold, so distant, so lifeless, and yet it is moving. Massive nitrogen glaciers are slowly shifting, creeping across the surface like frozen rivers. You watch as a faint crack splits the ice beneath your feet, tiny but real. Pluto is not a dead world. It is changing, slowly, silently, in ways that no other planet does. You exhale, watching your breath turn to ice again. This is a world frozen in time, and yet it refuses to be still. You turn away from the frozen mountains, scanning the landscape again. And that's when you see it. A massive, smooth, heart-shaped plain stretching for hundreds of miles. You've seen it before, from telescopes, from space probes, but standing here, it is overwhelming. The radio crackles, mission control to Explorer, confirming presence of Sputnik Planitia. You nod, because this is Pluto's most famous landmark, a place so massive that it can be seen from millions of miles away, a place so smooth that it seems untouched by time. And yet, beneath it, beneath this frozen heart, something strange is happening, because your sensors are picking up heat. Not much, barely anything at all, but enough to make you pause. Pluto should be dead. It should be frozen through and through. And yet, something beneath this icy world is still warm. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer, confirming subsurface activity. Possible liquid ocean detected. You inhale sharply, because that is impossible. And yet, it isn't. You kneel again, pressing your hand against the frozen nitrogen beneath you. If the data is correct, there may be a hidden ocean buried beneath this ice. Not a warm, Earth-like ocean, not something full of sunlight and waves, but something deep, dark, and hidden for billions of years. Could it be possible? Could Pluto, the most distant world in the solar system, hold on to liquid water deep below? And if it does, what else could be down there? You exhale, because this world is not what you expected. Pluto is cold beyond reason, distant beyond imagination, and yet it is moving, changing, evolving, and maybe, just maybe, it is hiding secrets that no one has ever seen. You glance at the sky one last time. The stars are so bright here. With no thick atmosphere to block them, the entire universe stretches out before you. Endless, infinite, unknown. And you realize Pluto is not the end. It is the beginning of something else. A stepping stone into the vast unknown, a doorway to the stars. And as you stand in the silence of this frozen world, you wonder, what comes next? The radio crackles one last time. Mission control to Explorer, additional data required. You nod, because you are not done here yet. There is more to uncover, more to understand. And for the first time in this journey, you are standing on the very edge of the solar system. You are standing at the edge of the solar system. Everything is quiet. Everything is still, and yet Pluto is not empty. It is not dead. It is not a lifeless rock, forgotten in the dark. This world moves. This world changes. This world holds secrets buried beneath the ice. You take another step forward, your boots pressing into frozen nitrogen, feeling the crunch beneath your feet. Above you, the sky is black. Darker than any sky you have seen before. But the stars, they are everywhere. Brighter than on Earth. Sharper. Clearer. Because here on Pluto there is no atmosphere to scatter light. No air to blur the universe. You can see everything. Not just the planets, not just the stars, but the true, endless void stretching beyond them. And yet, even in all this darkness, Pluto has light. Because as you glance toward the horizon, you see something unexpected. A blue haze wrapping around the planet like a delicate shell. Your visor display confirms it. Pluto has an atmosphere. Thin, weak, temporary, but real. The radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer, confirming presence of atmospheric haze. You exhale, watching your breath turn to frost again. Pluto's atmosphere is unlike any other. It is mostly nitrogen, mixed with methane and carbon monoxide. So fragile that it collapses and reforms as Pluto moves through its long, stretched-out orbit. During its closest approach to the Sun, this world warms just enough for nitrogen to sublimate, creating a thin sky. But as Pluto drifts farther out into the abyss, the atmosphere will freeze and fall to the ground like snow. You glance at the frozen plains beneath your feet. Some of this nitrogen ice once floated as gas in the sky. But now it is frozen, locked away for centuries, because Pluto's orbit is so long and slow that a single year here lasts 248 Earth years. A human lifetime wouldn't even see half of a Pluto year. And right now, winter is coming. Soon the temperature will drop even further. The atmosphere will collapse. The sky will fade. And Pluto will become even colder than it already is. And yet, it endures. You take another step, approaching a massive chasm in the ice. A fracture miles wide, stretching across the surface like a scar. Pluto is small, but it is alive in ways no one expected. Some scientists believe that the cracks and ridges on its surface are proof that the planet is still shrinking and expanding, shifting as it cools. Others think that deep beneath the surface, something is moving. Not magma, not rock, but water. Liquid water. The radio crackles again. Mission control to Explorer. Deep scan in progress. Possible subsurface ocean detected. You stare at the ice. Because if this is true, if Pluto, a world so far from the Sun that it receives barely any heat, still has liquid water beneath its frozen shell, then what else is possible? You kneel, pressing your hand against the nitrogen ice. Could there be something down there? Something drifting through the darkness? Not plants, not cities, not anything like Earth, but something small, something ancient, something that has never known the light of a sun. A world like this should be dead, but maybe it never was. You stand again, looking out across the endless frozen plains. Pluto is not like any other planet. It is small, it is distant, it is cold beyond reason. But it is unique, because here at the farthest reaches of the solar system, this world refuses to be forgotten. It has mountains of water ice, glaciers of frozen nitrogen, an atmosphere that comes and goes, cycling between ice and air, and maybe, just maybe, a hidden ocean locked away beneath the surface, waiting to be found. You take one last look at the sky, and for the first time in your journey, there is no next destination, no gas giant waiting below, no new world on the horizon, because Pluto is the last stop, the final planet in this impossible journey, the edge of everything we know. Beyond this, there is only the unknown, the Kuiper Belt, the Oort cloud, the distant frozen leftovers of the solar system, drifting in the void. And beyond that, the stars. You exhale, watching one last breath of frost curl inside your helmet. Then the radio crackles. Mission control to Explorer. Final assessment. Could humans survive here? You pause, and for the first time in this journey, the answer is unclear. Because Pluto is not completely uninhabitable. It has resources, it has ice, it has a sky, and underground it may even have warmth. A human colony could exist here, deep beneath the ice, sheltered from the cold. But it would be a lonely existence, a place where the sun is nothing more than a distant dot in the sky, a place where time itself feels slower, a place where winter can last for centuries. You look at your wrist display one last time. Pluto is not Earth. It is not Mars. It is not even Europa, where the possibility of life feels real. But it is something else. A reminder that even at the farthest edge of the solar system, worlds still exist. Worlds still change. Worlds still hold secrets. And maybe, just maybe, this is not the end of the journey. Maybe someday humanity will go even farther. Beyond Pluto, beyond the Kuiper Belt, beyond everything we know, and into the unknown. The radio crackles one final time. Mission control to Explorer. Your mission is complete. You take one last look at the frozen, distant world beneath you. And then the pull begins. The cold fades. The sky dissolves. And for the first time in this journey, you are going home.